Today our lesson is going to be a very simple lesson in terms of the movement, but we're going to be changing your attention to many different things. So it'll be important for you to rest if you need to rest. We are using very tiny muscles of your neck, around your spine that will change the whole of you. Just if I could see a little show of hands, if there are people who struggle with balance, raise your hand. And so some of you, that's interesting. So one of the things that you'll notice if you have grandchildren, that they are always playing with the position of their head. Or if you are in a position, I know not many of us have been around children a lot the last few years, but if you have a chance to see them on TV, little toddlers or whatever, you'll notice that their heads are always moving. And Moshe Feldenkrais took advantage of his observations of how children learn to move, the developmental sequences, to develop some of his lessons. And this particular lesson helps improve the way you hold your head on the top of your spine. It improves your balance for that very reason, because as we age, most of us, even if we're not aging too quickly, we're spending time on our computers and our head is falling forward, which exponentially increases the stress on your spine and causes your discs to have problems. And if you have osteoporosis, it can lead to little stress fractures in your spine, or if you're in the unfortunate circumstance like my grandmother was, you actually have complete fractures and end up spending time being still so those can heal. What will be very important for you is to move very slowly. This is one of the hallmarks of learning. When you're first learning anything that's new, things go slowly. So please give yourself permission to move very slowly, extremely slowly. And if you think you're moving slowly, move even slower than you think you are. The second thing that's important to remember is that it is not unusual for you to kind of zone out in the midst of a lesson and come back into it. Don't fret about that. That is a common occurrence when the nervous system is a little overloaded. You know how it was when you were in school, when the teacher went on, or you just couldn't take in anymore. You just kind of shut down for a little while. That does happen. So that is not an unusual thing to happen, especially in a lesson where you're working with the neck and head. If you've had injuries, whiplash injuries, you will need to be particularly gentle with yourself. And remember, this is about learning. The doing is in service to the learning and not doing for the sake of doing. So if you remember that and keep your attention traveling through yourself, paying attention specifically in places where I ask you to pay attention, then we'll see what happens by the end of the lesson. Are you ready? Let's begin. So go ahead and find yourself in a sitting position. I'd like you, if you can, to cross your ankles on the floor and let your knees go wide so that you can sit on your pelvis, that you can be sure that you're on your pelvis. If you have a chair with arms, this may feel a little confining to you, or you may feel like you have to move forward on the chair. So make yourself as comfortable as you can be, but try to sense how your pelvis is resting on the chair with the knees wide and the ankles crossed. It's a simple form of sitting. Your hands are just going to be relaxed and by your sides. And at a point, I may ask you to stand. So just make sure that you have space around you so that you can stand when we get to that point in the lesson. So sense your pelvis, the way you're sitting in your chair, and just notice the weight of your pelvis as you're sitting. Sense and feel if you feel that you have more weight on the right side of your pelvis, on your right sits bone. It's that little bone underneath your muscle of your buttock where your hamstring attaches. Feel how much weight is there on the right side and feel how much weight there is on the left side. And see if you can sense and feel your tailbone. And if you can't sense and feel it, just see if you can imagine where your tailbone would be and notice where it's pointing. Is it pointing down toward the floor straight, or does it move forward toward your heels or back behind you, and then travel up your tailbone through the lower bones of your spine, through your pelvis, up to the place where your floating ribs are, and up through your rib cage, up between your shoulder blades, up to where your head is attached at the very top of your spine. And just sense and feel the weight of your head as it rests on the top of your spine. And just close your eyes and see if you can sense and feel where your right earlobe is. And draw a line from your right earlobe down to your right shoulder. And just have a sense of how long that line is. And then sense and feel your left ear, your left earlobe. And draw a line from that down to your left shoulder. And sense and feel how long that line is. And now very gently, I want you to start to make a movement of taking your right ear a little bit fractionally closer to your right shoulder and then go back to the middle. It's a tiny little movement, as if your head is moving like it would move if you had a protractor. It's a tiny movement of a few degrees to the right and back. And just see if you can sense and feel how you do that. You're only going to the right to start. Only to the right. Taking that right ear in the direction of your right shoulder and back to the middle. And you can feel that you're moving in a little bit of an arc. We're going to try to see if we can sense our head in the fullness of the circumference of that arc. And I see some of you moving, and I see that there's a lot of movement. So I'd like you to make it even smaller, tiny. Move maybe this much of taking your right ear in the direction of your right shoulder, just so that you can sense and feel maybe what happens in the bones of your neck and between your shoulder blades. How far down can you feel this movement of your head tilting in this tiny little bit? And now try to do the same movement to the left. And just feel how you probably bend in a different place. And if you find that that's the case, you just say, oh, that's interesting. I bend in a very different place. Just sense and feel for yourself what you notice that's different. And because you're going to use the same muscles for the whole of this lesson, again, I'm going to remind you over and over, make it small, make it gentle. The less you do, the more you will feel, which is the whole goal of the lesson, is for you to have awareness of what you do, so you can, as Moshe said, you can do what you want. If you know what you're doing, you can do what you want. If you don't know what you're doing, how can you do anything? And then start to move the movement a little to the right and back through the middle and a little to the left, as if you're just ticking and talking, just a little pendulum on the clock. Just tick and talk. And see if you can sense and feel the whole of you respond to that little shift in weight of your head going to the right and your head going back and to the left. See if you can feel that your body, even though it's a tiny little movement, your whole body moves to the right when something happens, and your whole body moves to the left when something happens. Because when the head moves to the right, everything else moves in response to it. And when the head comes back to the middle, there's an equal response, and then the head goes to the left, and everything moves in response to the head. Now continue and see if you can start to imagine your right ear bending down towards your right shoulder. And keep your attention on the right ear and think of it bending to the left. And do that many times, thinking of your right ear bending to the right and coming back through the middle and bending to the left. And sense and feel what you notice that feels different because your attention is on the idea of your right ear bending. These are, we can try to listen to ourselves, listen to how this movement informs the rest of us. And my voice will just ask you some questions to invite you to explore those sensations that you're feeling. And now imagine for yourself that your forehead is on a pane of glass, that you're like my little granddaughter with your face pressed up against the window looking at the rain last night. And as you tilt the right ear toward the right shoulder and come back, and the left ear goes to the left shoulder, that your forehead travels on the glass. But you're still thinking about your ears. Your right ear tilts to the right shoulder and the left ear tilts to the left shoulder. And the forehead makes an arc on the glass. And you're just wiping it with your forehead. And if you were wiping it, you would be able to see, just because of the skin against the glass, the shape of the arc. Can you see in your imagining the shape of the arc to the right and the shape to the left? And is what you sense in the tilting of your head to the right and left, does that correspond with the arc that you sense, that you are imagining that you're drawing? And continue to do this movement of tilting your head to the right and left and imagining that your head is on the pane of glass. And then take one of your hands and put it in the position of the glass. And then wipe your forehead on your hand. The hand stays still. And the movement again is of your right ear moving to your right shoulder and your left ear moving to your left shoulder. Because I know some of you have some shoulder issues, go ahead and switch hands and just see if switching your hand informs your drawing of your arc in a different way. And I see some of you are moving your hand with your head. The hand stays still. The hand stays fixed in space. The shoulder is quiet and the head just swipes on the hand. See if you can find a way to keep your hand still, just as if it's the glass, and only move your head so that you're not pushing your head with your hand, that you're just letting the head move and the hand stays still. The hand does not go with the head. The hand stays still and the head moves underneath the hand. And now take your hand down and think of the back of your head being back on the wall behind you. And imagine that your head is sliding on the wall behind you as you continue that tick to the right of the right ear going to the right shoulder and coming back to the middle and the top going to the left. Feel the back of your head. And see if you can sense and feel the arc that the back of your head draws on the wall behind you. Now take one hand and put it behind your head without actually touching the head with the hand. It's just behind the head. And then continue that movement of tilting your right ear to the right shoulder and the left ear to the left shoulder. Remember that the hand is still. The hand is still and just the head moves. That's nice. And then you can switch the hand just because I know there's shoulder problems and just feel how that's different. If you have your other hand behind, go gently. Keeping the hand still and only tilting right and left. And sense and feel the arc. And just feel how different it feels just because your attention is on the back of your head and of your head sliding across your hand as if it's the wall. And now you can take your hand down and think about your chin. Continue that movement of tilting your right ear towards your right shoulder and your left ear towards your left shoulder, but your attention is on your chin. Can you think about your chin moving? Even though you know you're continuing the movement with your ears right and left, think about your chin moving, not about the rest of your head. And see if you can feel what the chin is doing. But now just take one of your hands and put it near your chin. Just put it near your chin and continue that tick and tock movement with your head. And just see if having that hand near your chin helps you feel what's really happening with your chin. Are there other movements that you're not intending to happen? Maybe your head is turning a little bit. We're talking about a pure tilting of your head to the right and to the left. And now touch your chin with your hand and see what it's doing. And then slide your hand up so that it covers your nose like you're a little child playing peekaboo. And tilt your head right and left and feel what your nose does on your hand. And see if you can feel that if you are tilting your right ear towards your right shoulder and coming back and your left ear towards your left shoulder, that your nose draws the arc as well. But it does not turn. The nose stays attached to the hand and it just kind of pivots around itself. How's your breathing? Make sure your breathing is uninterrupted. And you can switch hands again, just because I know some of you have shoulder issues. Switch hands and just see what's different when you have the other hand on your face. Is it easier to keep your nose on your hand? And now just take one hand and put it on the top of your head as if you're going to brush your hair with your hand. But the hand stays still. So it's not, there's no pressure down on your head. Just lift it a little bit so that you can sense and feel your hair, but that you're not pushing down on the top, and continue that movement of ticking and talking to the right and left. And feel what happens with your head. Feel how your head passes through what feels like a middle. And just notice how having your hand there, it might make it easier for you, but it might make it more difficult. Yes, if you have issues with your shoulders, you can imagine that your hand is resting on the top of your head. If you have issues, or you can take it down and rest, but think about swiping your hair on your hand, because I see a lot of this. If you're looking, I see a lot of this, and it's not that, it's just a little tiny brush of your hair on your hand. You can see that the hand stays still, but the head moves underneath the hand, resting anytime you need to rest. And then you can switch hands and try with the other hand. Just feeling how different you are when you have a different hand up. Trying to reduce any effort in your jaw, keeping the muscles around your eyes soft. A lot of us, when we concentrate, we push our lips out, try to relax around your lips and your mouth. And if you can, go ahead and interlace your fingers together and put both hands on the top of your head and lift the hands up so that you feel your hair, as if you're going to create some static, and just tilt. Tiny little tilting right and left. And see if you can eliminate every other movement except the movement of your head. Eliminate every other movement. Your hair should brush your hands. So that you maintain some contact. And now think about the back of your head. You can bring your arms down if you need to, but let's take a rest. Let's take a rest. So I do know that having your hands up for a prolonged period of time creates strain for people with shoulder injuries. So again, you take care of yourself. If it's uncomfortable, you do it in your imagination. You'll receive the same benefit from imagining as you do from doing, if you can conceive that. We do know that professional athletes rehearse their movements over and over, especially before big games when they're not actually working hard, where they're trying to rest their bodies, but they rehearse because the movement originates in the nervous system, in the brain, and the performance is enhanced by the visualization. and people can actually maintain their sense of acuity and sharpness in their performance by a regular practice of visualizing themselves doing what it is they're trying to do in their sport. So go ahead now, if you rested, and put your hands back up and continue to tick and talk, and imagine that your head is sliding on the wall behind you. Noticing if your nose is turning when you go in one direction or the other. Remember how it felt. And I see a lot of you have some space between your head and your hands. So see if you can just allow yourself to feel your hair. You can see I have feldy hair where I just demonstrated a little bit. So just you want to feel your hair. It's not way up here and it's not pushing down. It's in that gentle sort of in between where there's no pressure on your head, but that you're brushing the palm with your hair. And listen to the same movement with your hands in this position. And then also imagine that your head is resting on the pane of glass in the front so that you can feel the arc being drawn with your forehead. And you can feel the arc being drawn by the back of your head on the wall behind you. And think that your head continues to touch those two places, that you're between two panes of glass, or if you were an Oreo cookie, your head would be the filling, and behind you would be a chocolate cookie, and in front of you would be another chocolate cookie. And that you're touching those places at the same time. And then you can take your hands down and just imagine that your head passes between those two panes of glass with your forehead touching and the back of your head touching. And then take your right hand and put it in front of your forehead like this, and take your left hand and put it behind and slide your head, keeping your hands fixed in space. And just notice automatically people want to start turning the head. So see if you can keep your head in the same plane. Think about your ear going to the shoulder on the right, and then the left ear goes to the shoulder on the left. All of a sudden your head just started turning automatically because it just did not know what to do once your hands were up like that. So see if you can really do what you think you're doing and keep your head from turning. Keep it moving in the same plane. And then when you're satisfied with that, then you can switch your hand, put the left hand in the front and the right one behind, and do that a few times. Just sensing and feeling what you notice that's different. Feeling how your right ear moves in the direction of your right shoulder and the left ear goes in the direction of the left shoulder. And see if you can maintain the purity of that side bending of taking the ear to the shoulder without the head turning. It's just a pure, simple little side bend. And because this was so taxing, go ahead and bring your hands down, and you can sit back in your chair and rest. Those of you who've done these lessons before, you know that the rest portions are very important for integrating what you're doing into your nervous system. All learning takes time, it takes integration, it takes assimilating the new information with things that you already know. Now bring yourself back to your sitting position and continue moving your right ear towards your right shoulder and your left ear towards your left shoulder. And start to pay attention to your right jaw as you go to the right, and to your throat, and then to your left jaw as you go to the left. And see if you can feel what happens in the right jaw as you tilt to the right. What happens to the right jaw when you tilt to the left? What happens to the left jaw when you tilt to the left? And what happens to the left jaw when you tilt to the right? See if you can feel the angle of your right jaw. Feel how that angle changes as you go to the right and left. And then pay attention to the left. And feel what you feel in the front of your throat. See if you can listen to the place that's underneath your chin. What happens with your tongue? And now see if you can sense the different points of tilting. Thinking about your right ear. You can feel how your right ear feels like it slides. And then think about your left ear. Feel how it slides. Relaxing your jaw, softening your eyes. And see if you can feel the line that your left ear is drawing. What line is your right ear drawing? And now see if you can feel the top of your head. What's the top of your head doing? That's why we used our hands on the top of the head to inform what happens there. Now think about your right temple, right beside your eye, in between your eye, a little higher than your eye and your hairline, and your left temple, a little up between your eye and your hairline on the left. And if you're a gentleman, and even if you're a lady, think about sideburns. If you had a sideburn on the right, think about that sideburn on the right and on the left, moving in the direction of the shoulder. noticing how having your attention on these different places causes you to become aware of different sensations. You're moving slowly and gently. And now pay attention to your forehead, drawing the arc on the glass in the front. And feel your attention move to the back of your head and how it travels on the wall behind you. And now if your eyes are not closed, go ahead and close your eyes and sense and feel how your eyes are moving. See if you can feel how your eyes move up and down and down and up. Pay attention to the movement of your right eye. And then pay attention to your left eye. Sense and feel what's different. And see if you can feel one eye goes up and the other goes down. And then you come back. And the other eye goes up. One goes down. Do they travel the same way? How are they different? Spend some time just sensing and feeling how your own eyes move. Do you sense that your eyes are connected somewhere else? Reducing any effort that you feel, maybe in your hands or in your legs. And now just bring yourself to your feet if you can stand. And if you can't, that's fine. You can just imagine yourself in standing. But if you can stand, go ahead and stand. And continue that movement of tilting your right ear towards your right shoulder and bringing yourself back and tilting your left ear towards your left shoulder. And again, if you cannot stand, it's not a trouble. You don't worry about that. You just imagine yourself in standing. And sense and feel what happens with your arms as your right ear tilts to your right shoulder. What happens with your right arm? And what happens with your right arm when you go to the left? And then feel the left arm. Close your eyes if you can and pay attention. What does your nose do in the air? What does it draw? And see if you can feel what the nose draws in relationship to another part of yourself. Pay attention to your abdomen. Does it draw with your abdomen or in the opposite direction of your abdomen? Does it draw with your head? Is it a straight line? Is it an arc that pulls down or pulls up? Is the middle higher than the edges or is it low? Now take your attention to your chin. Feel what the chin does. Does it draw the same thing as your nose? Is it bigger or smaller? And can you feel the back of your head now? The place, the vertebra where the very back of your head rests at the top of your spine. And if you can, take your right hand and put it on the top of your head, just resting on your hair, just as you did before, not pushing down, but keep it resting on the hair so that it's light. And continue that movement of tick and tock. Can you feel that that movement is clearer? Right and left. Did your head stop turning so that it's a more pure side bending? And switch hands. So for some of you, it's more confusing in standing. The head just brushes underneath the hand. And now take your two hands and interlace your fingers if you can and put them on the top and do that little tick and tock. And then very gently lower your hands down on your head as if you are a butterfly on a lilac bush, and gently just use the heel of your hands to gently guide your head a little bit to the right and come back, and then guide it a little bit to the left and come back. Pay attention to the back of your head. And does it feel different? You can continue. Can you feel the sideways movement through the whole of yourself, making sure that you're touching very lightly, very gently. And continue to think about different parts of your face. So think about your ear. You can just put your hands back up or just imagine them there. And think about your jaw. And think about your throat. And your mouth. and your eyes, and your right and left temple. About all those parts that can move. And if you haven't done so yet, go ahead and take your hands down and continue to think about those different parts on your face. Start with your ears and your nose and your jaw and your throat. With your eyes closed, feel how your mouth moves. Does it move the same to the right and to the left? And your eyes, in the back of your head, and your right temple, and your left temple. Now sense and feel what's happening with your hands. Can you feel that your right hand moves lower when your head goes to the right, and that the left hand goes down lower when you go to the left? What do you feel in your whole spine? What do you feel in the vertebra of your neck? Just your neck. Do all of your vertebrae in your neck move to the right and left? Or do you feel that there are some that don't move to the right? And now see if you can do the same movement with your head, just right and left, without moving your shoulders and your hands. So that you're moving the head on the vertebra that's on the top. And the chin goes to the left when the right ear goes to the right. And the chin goes to the right when the left ear goes to the left. And when you're satisfied with all of that, you can take a seat and rest. And with your eyes closed, see if you can sense and feel that rhythm still of tilting your ear to the right and coming back and tilting your ear to the left. And still feeling that rhythm in your rest. Sense and feel what you feel is different from the way we started the lesson. Go ahead and bring yourself back to your working sitting position, if you will, with your knees out and your legs crossed at the ankles. And just notice which ankle you chose to cross in front. And just because we're always about sensing and feeling differences, uncross your ankles and switch the one that's in front. And continue that little movement of tilting. And just see if you can sense and feel what is different that caused you to choose that first ankle to be in the front at the very beginning. Can you reduce the effort in your neck, maybe in your chest, in your hands, so that you can find a way to allow your head to tilt to the left and to the right with the same ease as you did in the beginning. And uncross your ankles and go back to your habitual way and tilt and see if it got even easier. And then just leave that alone and move your head in any way that you would like to move it. And see if you can sense and feel. Maybe you're turning and looking. See how you feel different in your turning, maybe in looking up and down. See if you feel different than you normally would. And that's the end of your lesson for today. We can open for questions.
Amazing. Is there anyone that has any questions, any thoughts during it that might have come up for you that you're uncertain about? Anybody feel any relief? We love to hear that. Barbara, go ahead if you want to unmute. Good morning.
Good morning. Why is it that my left side seemed to, like everything on my left side feels awkward? And on my right side, like my right ear to my shoulder, I feel it's a good stretch. And on my left side, it feels like my neck is shorter. Everything on my left side feels awkward. So my question is why?
It's a great question. I would imagine Moshe would probably say to you that you organize yourself more easily to bend in the easy direction. But the other side, you are not as well organized to move in that way. Are you right-handed or are you left-handed?
Right-handed.
And everything to the right seemed easier. There's more neurological real estate for you moving through the right. So to play with the left, did it get easier on the left over the course of the lesson?
Some, like when you say cross your ankles, it was easier on my left side. That's the only thing that was easier. Everything else was awkward. And I also noticed that everything happens to me, like if I have a sore throat, it is on my left side. Everything wrong happens on the left side. So I say maybe that is attached to what I'm doing. I don't know.
Well, it's all connected. It could be that there's an issue that's undiscovered on your right that's impacting your left. It can also just be that you just don't know how to do these things with your left side, because again, it's learning. If you're right-handed, you choose to do things with the right. I mean, I broke a finger on my right hand, so I had to learn how to open a bottle with my left hand because I couldn't use this finger to twist it. So now I can open with my left pretty easily. But when I started, it was very awkward and very strange because I didn't know how to bend this finger to be able to pull on the cap. But I can't do it with this one. So I have, if I'm going to open with my right, I use my hand this way. So we learn, and hopefully over the course of a lesson that you find that there are some things that you are doing that are inhibiting your ability to do what you want, and you can let go of those sort of habitual patterns. It takes a long time to build a new habit, although I will say there are times a person can do a single lesson and have a transformative experience. Hopefully some of you have had the benefit of some of that, and if you haven't, you'll just keep coming back because you realize there's more learning. It's a great and wonderful thing that you notice that your left does not do what your right does as easily. That is a tremendous learning in and of itself.
Thank you. I'll work on it.
Be gentle. Slowly. Rest a lot. Take naps.
Okay.
Are there more questions?
Is there any more questions? Yeah, Lynn, go ahead. If you want to unmute. Hold on.
Okay, I didn't have my video on all this time because I was not dressed yet, so.
That's okay.
But I was watching and listening and doing the exercises. I noticed that in the beginning, I heard crackling and crunching and like, oh my God, this is gonna break something. I know that it won't, but anyway. And then now I can move left and right and forward and back and right and left and all those movements, and there's nothing. There's just smooth and silent. So I must have released some tightnesses. And I was thinking all during this class, how many thousands of times do you need to do this? Well, I see many to get that benefit. And I'm wondering, how do you apply that to the rest of your body?
Well,
I have bad right shoulder, so
Mhm.
I don't know what to do about that.
So this, the repetition is intended to do a couple of things. One is to help you feel how when your attention is on other parts of you, you move in a different way. And also how your intention is not exactly necessarily what you are doing. So we all think that we're doing things a certain way, and then we have a chance to explore with a different thing. We realize, oh my gosh, when my hands are up here, I'm not, or like this, I'm not bending from side to side, I'm really turning. So we think we're doing this, but we're not really. And that is a learning also. So the neck is a very, it's just a place where people have a lot of trauma. Women especially, because we hold our tongues, we bite our tongues. If you've had any car accidents or whiplash or shoulder injuries or even pelvic floor injury will impact the way you hold your head. So a lot of it has to do with what you have learned, and you have opportunities to learn other things. There are other lessons where you would have that cracking disappear much more quickly, but this lesson is intended to focus on how you hold your head and how you hold your head easily, because I could show you a video of my granddaughter when she was little, and you could just see her little head is doing this all the time because she's adjusting for balance, especially as she was learning how to walk. And that's, the head is supposed to be free. It's supposed to be like a bobblehead. And as an adult, we'd start doing this and we bite our tongues and we stop doing things. So now you know that you can do it. So maybe you will move that way more.
So can you do that like if I did with my shoulder, that's not good. If I just moved it like this and then went in different directions and paid attention, would I also loosen that up just like the neck did?
It's a good question. Experiment, see if you can do that. I would say, I encourage you to, movement is very useful for so many things. We just don't know how we hold ourselves. So in the case of the shoulder, if your neck is having problems moving, you're going to have shoulder issues. If your shoulder is not moving well, your neck is going to give you problems, or your opposite hip, or your lower back, or your sciatic nerve. If you have an issue with this shoulder, the sciatic nerve on the opposite side and the knee on the opposite side are likely to become inflamed. It's just, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And when there's something wrong with a part of us, there's something wrong with the whole. So learning how to manage ourselves is part of the process.
Okay. And
Well, I
Nancy,
swim
I
every
see you.
day, so I get.
Swimming is great. Backstroke or modified.
Mm-hmm. I have by pain, because of pain, automatically. All right, I'll mute again so that somebody else can have.
Okay, Nancy, I see you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I won't take much time, but this is so timely. I'd never heard of this before. I'm so glad I took the class this morning. I feel relief already. I was recently diagnosed with cervical myofascial pain, and they wanted to put me on steroids, and I refused. I just was gonna just do, I've been dealing with it on my own, and this has really been helpful. Thank you. So how often, I guess my question is, how often do you do this? Is it daily?
I'm teaching almost every day, so that my contact information is available. I teach online, and I also do private appointments online if you're in a different state or in person.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
And Eva, go ahead. If you want to unmute.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Gorgeous day here in New York. Anyway, I was going to say, I found this not only freeing, going back and forth. I got to the point where I just wanted to fall asleep. And at one point I stopped and I was like, oh, I can't sleep now. I'm in the middle of a class, because I was so relaxed. I don't think I ever felt that relaxed. And then I said to myself, sometimes I have trouble going to sleep at night. I think I'm going to start doing this every night to just ease me into my nighttime sleep.
It's also her voice is very tranquil,
Yes,
right?
very.
I think that you got to add that in. You could always replay one of her sessions and now get you right to sleep because her voice is so calming. I
Yes.
think that's a big part of it. That,
Definitely. I'm going to be doing that.
Yeah.
But also I want to say, my neck cracks every time I move. If I'm sitting on the couch and I go to get up, I hear, and I'm always hearing cracking in there. And also when I was doing this, I didn't hear as much cracking, but I did hear a little bit of cracking. Is that normal? Or, I know I'm not normal, but is it normal for the neck to do that?
Normal is a cycle on your washing
Right.
machine.
I tell everybody that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
The truth. We are who we are. We move the way we move, and there are ways that we've learned to move. And anything that's happening further down in your spine will impact the sounds that you hear. And as you age, we all creak a little more, kind of like older floors, you step on them and they creak. I creak, even though I practice this method every day. I still have places where I creak, but I move well and I feel good. And that's what this is about. It's about helping you finding yourself to be able to be the way you want to be who you want to be, to do what you want to do and enjoy your life.
Yeah, it was terrific. Thank you. I feel so relaxed now. I don't remember the last time I felt this relaxed.
Good.
That's great.
Part of
Very
it.
nice feeling. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And I see we have a last question here from Rose that she has, everybody really, and it's the same thing, the slight crackling and stiffness due to a previous accident. And I know that it's sometimes sleeping makes my neck very stiff. Should I do this when waking and lying in bed to stretch it out? And her spine is also compressing as well. Does this affect it?
Well, if you think about the spine mechanically, the weight of the head as you tilt to one side opens the vertebra on the opposite side, and it causes the vertebra on the side that you're tilting toward to come closer together. So mechanically, that's what is happening with your spine. If you have compression, there are movements that you can do that can help relieve that compression. Maybe the next lesson, I'll do another twisting lesson because that helps with compression. But for those people with sciatica, you have to be careful with that. Although I have found that several of my clients get great relief from twisting because it lengthens the spine and it takes the pressure off the nerves and lengthens the space so that the discs are not as compressed.
Well, sometimes I can sit and press my hands down, twist, and my spine, I'll hear it go clunk, clunk, clunk.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I go back, it doesn't do it going the other direction. I'll turn the other direction and it doesn't do that. It's only when I go to the left that it does this.
Do you have a little scoliosis?
I have a degenerative spine.
Okay, so maybe you have more damage on one side than the other. We could play with it. We can play with it in the twisting lesson.
I want to try and get more, to be more active and more. I'm 71. I don't want to feel like I'm 91.
I understand.
I'd rather feel like 61.
Yes, precisely. Well, I will tell you, I think I mentioned it in one of the earlier lessons. Before I became a practitioner, when I did the training, I had so much trauma because I worked in the fitness industry, the wellness industry for many, many years and had multiple car accidents and things like that. And I was having a lot of pain, and the program to the education to become a Feldenkrais practitioner is a 4-year education. And it's, I can't, chemo brain for me. I can't
Yeah.
remember how many hours it was at this point in time. I'm post chemo now, but I would fall asleep. I would do 2 or 3 movements and I would sleep. And I slept for almost 3.5 years of my training and came out. And, you know, the brain learns. It learns, and it learns well. And it does not learn well under duress, which is
Right.
why we do things slowly and gently and easily, because that facilitates your learning and makes things much more easily retained. So
Okay.
there is always potential to be better than you are. At the end of 4 years, of which 3 and almost a half I slept, I had no pain and I could move well and felt fabulous. And
Well, I'm trying to get off a lot of the junk they've got me on, and doing it with food and my spices and so forth. I'm just learning about some of that, but it's a slow process. But I want to get off. I'm on one NSAID, which is a cream. It's not a pill, but it's still, I would rather be able to use natural anti-inflammatories versus this.
well, if you would like to chat with me about what I learned during my chemo, I would be more than happy to share what I learned.
I'm post chemo. Unfortunately, mine never came back.
Well,
But that's okay.
it takes a long time to feel well after that.
Yeah.
For sure. So
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. And this was very, very good.
good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Well, is there any, Dorothy, I see you with your hand up if you want to unmute.
I was just saying thank you.
Oh, okay.
It was new to me. I learned something. I feel good. I am also sleepy. Bye-bye.
Take a nap. It's good.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
facilitates the learning. It really does.
Okay. Thank you.